The Haunting of Room 4044. I was in Japan for work, and after a long day, all I wanted was to collapse into bed. I was staying with my assistant in a hotel room, room 4044. What seemed like any other room. 2 beds, a desk, a TV, and a sense of quiet. I went to bed early because I was completely drained. My assistant was sitting on the other bed reading quietly. Somewhere in the middle of the night I woke up, or at least I thought I did. I couldn't move. My entire body was frozen and felt this crushing weight on my chest. And that's when I saw him. A man was sitting on top of me, his face pale as death, was on top of me, strangling me. His cold, empty eyes locked onto mine. I struggled, gasping for air. My vision blurred. I struggled with everything I had, and finally broke free. I shot up in bed, gasping for air, heart pounding. I turned to my assistant and yelled, "Why didn't you help me?" But she just looked confused and said she'd been reading the whole time and hadn't noticed anything unusual. Then the desk lamp went out and the TV turned on by itself, just static. And outside, we heard running, fast, frantic footsteps. But when we opened the door, no one was there. We begged the staff to give us another room. They eventually did. Room 3044, on the floor below at the end of the hallway. It was late and we were terrified, but at least we were away from that room. At around 2 a.m., the phone rang. My assistant picked it up, and on the other end was a man's voice. It was cold, emotionless. He asked to speak to me. He wanted to know which room I was staying in. I freaked out and told her to hang up, but the calls kept coming, the same voice asking the same question. We left the phone off the hook and sat there, too scared to sleep. The next morning we rushed to move to another hotel, so I started packing. My suitcase couldn't open. I remembered it was set to my usual code, 1234. After struggling for a while, my assistant finally unlocked it, but the code wasn't mine. It was 4044, the number of the room we'd fled from. I didn't think much of it at first, but then almost fainted when I realized it. When I got home, I was sick for days. Then I met with my manager, who'd also stayed in that hotel. He didn't stay in the same room, but he told me something that made my blood run cold. He told me one night he'd opened the curtains to check out Tokyo's skyline, but instead he saw a graveyard. He was so shocked that he closed the curtains and went straight to bed. Later, he found out the hotel was built on a burial ground, where soldiers from the war had been laid to rest. I still think about it, about the man who strangled me, the phone calls, the lock. I can't explain it, but one thing's for sure, I'll never forget room 4044.